Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be making this little fairy illustration and talking a bit about some tips on finding your art style. So art style can be a really wondered about thing, particularly among people that are newer to drawing. I know when I was getting started when I was younger, I really wanted to find what my art style was going to be because I was so inspired by so many individualized artists that I was seeing who had really distinct styles. As you continue to draw more and more, you will absolutely have an art style. Like, there's no way to draw without having one. No matter what, you can't get away from it. So part of your style will be born from things like your personal tendencies, just in the way that you move your hands and the way that you work, things that stand out to you from photos, stuff like that. However, there's definitely also another part of your art style that you can really customize and choose to push and pull at, and you can build over time. So my first tip is to sort of gather all of your biggest inspirations. If you don't have a large group of them, I highly recommend hunting down some more artists that you enjoy because it can be so helpful for inspiration and direction for where to go with your work. And there are so many artists out there that you can find on the internet really easily that are all just really amazing. So take a group of art and artists that you love and try to see what they have in common, and if there's anything in common with your current work that you want to keep, as well as what you can change to keep up with any common threads you see in those artists' work. Maybe it's color palettes or use of color, or maybe they tend to all have like really big eyes. Maybe there's a lot of maximalism going on and you love artwork that feels really crowded, or maybe most of those things that you like just don't have very much detail at all. Try to really pinpoint what you like about different art and what draws you to there, what attracts you to it, and how you can achieve that feeling, and sort of how they're doing the things that you really like as well. Try to break it down into different parts and see what you can find out. And another small thing is that a lot of artists, if you follow them on social medias, they might have times where they will answer questions, so you can totally feel free to ask them about their art style if you want. Tip number 2 is after you look at all of that, think about it, see what you can find, take all of that information and sit down with it, maybe compare it to your own drawings and sketches, and try to replicate some of the different aspects that you saw and liked, and try to find a comfortable way to work that into the way that you draw right now. I would recommend not necessarily trying to change everything immediately about your art style, but just nudging it in some different habits so they feel comfortable. Also, by the way, you are totally allowed to exactly copy drawings in your sketchbook. Like, just don't claim them as your own. Don't really show them to anyone, just keep them for yourself. You want this as just a way to improve. But if you love an artist and want to break down and understand how they get their faces to look and feel a certain way, you can exactly copy down their lines in your sketchbook, and you might learn a lot. Just make sure that you don't continue to copy someone's style. Just do it once to really try to get into their heads while they're drawing and see how it feels to make those sorts of lines. Always be careful that you aren't turning your art into a carbon copy of someone else's art style though as well. You want to create your very own style. That's what's really fun about art and what's going to set your art apart. So if you do this, you should probably do it with a couple of artists whenever you sit down with it and see what you learn from all of them. Side note, I might use people as an example a lot because that's what I draw, but this could totally be applied to anything that you like to draw and want to learn to draw. My next tip is also more of a drawing exercise, and it's to try out drawing multiple iterations of the same thing, especially if it's from a photo. Draw it as it is in your normal style, the way that you would usually draw it, and then try pushing some parts of it in different directions. If it's people, maybe make the arms and legs really straight, like in a lot of kids' cartoons, or the eyes really simple, and just choose random things to try to push and pull in different directions, and you might learn a lot. Even if you try drawing something that you normally aren't super into as an art style, just try a bunch of different things and you might find some new shorthands you like, or different ways that you want to simplify things, and just kind of roll with it, and you might find some really interesting stuff. I think it's important to remember that not everything that you draw has to represent what you want to eventually have your art look like, or like it doesn't have to all have your eventual goals in mind. You can just try some really random stuff in your sketchbook. Like you can just do some totally like wacky stuff whenever you want to. Your sketchbook is a place for you to play and just like make whatever marks you want. Tip number 4 is to make sure you're doing equal parts of learning and also doing stuff from imagination. This is just for people who like want to have like a simplified style eventually, and not as much if you're trying to like have a more realistic style where like everything you do is from photos and such. But if you want to have a style one day, I recommend making sure that you are constantly also learning and building your knowledge of how to do things in a technical way, but spending equal amounts of time drawing things from memory and from your imagination, because you don't want to get too caught up in relying on photos, and then it also might be harder if you want to have like a really simplified style to tap into that later on, because you might get used to drawing things in a really realistic way if it's always from photos. But yeah, so make sure that you are watching videos or reading books to learn about anatomy, again, if you draw people, or just the properties of whatever you like to draw, or drawing from life or references, because a huge part of style is just what your hands naturally do, what connections they make between different things, what stands out to you when you look at something. A lot of that stuff will naturally emerge as you draw from photos, and then later on when you're drawing from your mind, you'll just naturally report back the things that stood out to you. That's a big part of what makes life drawing so helpful as well. Like when you do the 30-second drawings and then get longer and longer with them, when you draw things really quickly, you can really evaluate the most important parts and the most important information that make it so that people can tell what it is they're looking at, and then you can kind of play with everything else in between. It's like, if you've ever heard about artists who draw things realistically but they change the colors, like the most important thing is to just keep the values in the right places, and then color doesn't really matter because our brains will completely understand as long as the values are there. My last tip is to just have fun with your art. Explore a ton of different avenues and try anything that inspires or excites you. Focus on gradually learning and improving and having fun along the way. A huge amount of your identity as an artist is built just from what you like. So have fun with it. Don't worry too much about searching for your style or artistic identity, because if you just do what you love, it will find you. Not everything that you draw, especially while you're learning, has to be the end result of where you want your art to be. It's completely fine if you're not where you want to be right now. You can just be exactly where you are. Just allow yourself to grow from there. I used to get really frustrated as a younger artist that my stuff didn't look like who I was comparing it to, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted yet, but you have a ton of time. You will get there eventually. I know it can be a little frustrating, especially when it feels slow sometimes, but if you just keep rowing your boat, you're making progress. I promise. Just keep drawing, and you'll find yourself in new places that you love.
Haven't you noticed? Very exciting. I hate you too, Johnny.
So yeah, that's all I have to say about art style, I think, for now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. If you were looking for some advice with your art style, if you enjoyed, please leave a like, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you found this helpful, it would also be really awesome if you share this with anyone else who might. Subscribe for more art videos. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!